Hey everyone, it's Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back with another episode, special New Year's New You episode. It's an opportunity for you to think a little bit about how you want to structure for your year heading into the new 2024 season. And there's lots of opportunities for you to think about growth. And one of the best ways to do that is to align yourself with people, with programs, to who are already walking those steps, who already have a path in place to sort of achieve the goals that you're setting out to do. So not necessarily you can sign up and say, "Hey, outsource my goals to you. I want to run this marathon. We just take care of everything, and then I just show up and run the marathon." That's not going to cut it, and that's not honestly the type of athlete we're looking for inside Endurance Nation. But if you're looking for a different way of training, a different way of achieving your goals after several years of sort of trying the same old way, or just always running into those same problems, always having injuries in March, never having that race performance you need, unable to taper, just not seeing the races that you want, you put in the work all the time, but it's not getting the outcomes that you want. It's time to mix things up. Endurance Nation has a great way to do that. And 2024 is a better time, as good a time as any to sign up. Between now and January 15th, you can sign up for the team and access our winter training program known as the outseason. It's a 14-week protocol designed to help you get super strong and fast. The idea being we add fast before far. And you'll basically exit after 14 weeks with the fitness that you had last year, at the end of last year, but without any of the fatigue. Imagine feeling the strength that you felt at the end of last year, coming off that race, knowing you're so strong. Couldn't really do much about it because you're also so tired. So let's bring that fitness back. Let's do it by the early quarter, end of the Q1 of this year, maybe mid Q2, and then set you free to go forth and take new adventures, build new fitness on top of that, do great stuff, right? And so the way that we do it is we rest appropriately at the end of every season. It's a discrete period, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on your fitness levels and what you were into last year, what you got up to with your shenanigans. And then this year we say, hey, look, the 14 weeks, we're going to dial you in and get you all on lock. And we have programs for people who are triathletes who want to run focus, triathletes who want to bike focus, cyclists, runners in general, or any even adventure racing plan that you want, ultra runners as well. We've got the program dialed in for 14 weeks. It's just over 3 months. It's a great opportunity to do several different phases of work, and it really makes you stronger and ready for the year. So first, let's handle those objections. Coach, hey, listen, I understand what you're saying. I want to be better, but what about these people I hear who are talking about base training, like zone 1, zone 2, there's like heart rate caps. There's all sorts of things that I need to do. I've got to be in like fitness jail and not do hard stuff right now. What's the story? Hey, listen. So my perspective on that is pretty straightforward. Do you need to build base to become a successful endurance athlete? Yes, you do. For sure. And the more base you have, the better. This is why you see athletes who've been doing endurance sports for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, carrying a significant advantage. It's not because they just do more miles than you every single year. It's because they've done more lifetime miles than you ever. So if you ask yourself about the base fitness that you have, a large part of your base fitness is what you did last year. So if you had a decent last year, then you've already got some great base in your system. Now, if you didn't have a good last year and you're starting off from complete scratch, then that's another story altogether, and we can help you get back on track. But what I'm talking about here is for athletes who had a good year last year, felt pretty good about it, put in, anywhere from 400 to 600 hours of total training right across the entire month, right? So it's like, hey, and you think about it, you take, say that's 600 hours, and we'll divide that by 12 months. That's 50 hours in a month. And we take that 50 hours a month. We say, let's divide that by 30 days. See, that's 1.6 hours on average a day. That's a pretty high end level of fitness for an athlete. But if you break it down even further, you say, okay, 1.6 hours per day. That's not crazy, especially if I do 1 hour a day and then I'm ending up doing like 4 or 5 hours on the weekend. That actually kind of works out pretty well, which is where most of our athletes fall, which is to say they invest their volume on the weekend that fits their schedule, and they're really time bound and focused during the week. And you can be successful in that regard. In fact, you can even turn that time limitation into a strength by leveraging intensity. And that's what we do in the winter. Well, wait a minute, coach. Doing intensity in the winter is terrible. Like I'm going to peak too soon and then I'm going to crash later. Well, if you did intensity all year, you didn't vary the intensity. We didn't introduce intermittent volume. We didn't have the appropriate amount of rest built in. If we didn't have diversification of training programs, focus in different areas across the course of the year, for sure. Yeah, agreed. If you did the same thing every day for the entire year, didn't let your body recoup, you would absolutely achieve burnout. That's not what we're doing here. But we're saying that, hey, with 14 weeks of focused training, 2 rest days a week, 2 rest weeks during that 14 weeks, during the time which we test and so on, make sure you're on the right track, that we can customize a trajectory for you across the year that's actually significantly better than you've ever had before. And for athletes who've struggled with programs that change all the time, where coaches are creative or perhaps late with their training programs, or not fully sort of keeping you up to date on what the focus of that session is, and you feel like a lot of this training is just garbage time essentially, then you're really missing out. You can be a great athlete and not have tons of garbage time in your schedule, but have volume. That's when it's meant to be volume, it's volume, and you're on and you're dialed in. But the other times you're saying, no, it's not volume. If it's, I can get the work done in an hour, why would I take 2 hours to do that work? I mean, maybe there was a destination you wanted to go to or some people you wanted to spend more time with. That's an altogether different conversation. But if it's Thursday and you could do 2 hours worth of work in an hour, let's get it done in an hour so you can have a proper Thursday. You can do all the other things that really matter to you and not just have it be a conversation around I'm an endurance athlete and endurance wins all the time. Okay. So something for you to think about. All right. So as we go into the out season, there's some other elements that I want to talk a little bit about. I want to get back to that fast before far methodology because it is a paradigm shift for a lot of athletes. And one of the reasons why it works for endurance athletes in particular is that when the traditional sort of BOMPA model of periodization is meant to say that you do all this aerobic training, and then as you get closer to your season, you start adding some intensity and you get more and more race specific to have that peak fitness and strength. But reality is that for most of us with our endurance events, the race specificity is the volume, right? So if you need to be able to ride, say, 6 hours for an Ironman or to run 3 hours for a marathon at a steady pace, that's your goal. So running long and running at a sustained pace is something that you're going to work towards in the year. So there's lots of different ways you could do it. And the way that we recommend that you do it is by saying, hey, let's get really strong now when we don't have volume constraints on your season. So we're 3 months away from needing to worry about doing a long run. Why would we start running longer now? If you start playing that game, you've got to raise that long run up to continue seeing value and seeing adaptations in your system. Or if you can't raise that single run, raising 2 runs during the week, all of a sudden you're doing multiple long runs. And then you get to your season. It's like, I'm really tired of it doing all these miles. We're like, well, if you're not injured, now's the time to start working in some intensity. Be like, I got all this fatigue in my system. So just understand the role that fatigue plays across your entire year. We say, let's make you faster and stronger now. Let's do the work that makes you like legitimately strong. We'll look at your fitness, your threshold for the bike or the run or whatever it may be. And we'll build that threshold fitness now by maximizing the training ratio between threshold and VO2 level intensity. We give you plenty of time to rest. You come out of those 14 weeks with some great threshold numbers. So we basically have raised the tide. And on top of that, we can start putting in the endurance miles as we move into season. So for example, if you are a 10-minute mile runner, 10 minutes per mile. I mean, the out season, we use intervals, really strong in sort of certain areas, and we have lots of sort of rest and recovery in other areas, and we have you working on the treadmill, but also getting outside on the weekends, et cetera. And across the course of this 14-week out season, we take your pace from 10-minute miles, sort of from a threshold like 5K run pace, right? From 10-minute miles, we take you down to 9-minute miles. So we brought it down to 9-minute miles. That's fantastic. But what we did at that same time by bringing your 10-minute threshold to 9-minute miles is that we moved your long run pace, which was like 13 miles. We moved that to like 11 and a half. Which is phenomenal. We basically took a minute and a half off of every sort of baseline mile. We transitioned it over to the marathon. We say, hey, look, your old you would have run that marathon, 26 miles, at 26 times 1.5, right? Or 39 minutes slower than you can run it now because we've changed that delta. But we haven't even gotten into the benefits of what it means for you to run long and do more work. So now we can start adding some duration work on top of your high-end threshold work. And it's an adaptation procedure, a flow that's actually really effective. And adding some volume at that time is great, especially for athletes like us who are time-bound. So as your aspirational goals go up and you want to do more and more challenging endurance events, you have to be able to spend the time. But if you spend the time in training doing all this base work and then you move into the season, you say, oh, hey, everybody, so sorry. Now I'm not doing the base work anymore, but I'm doing just as much, if not more work for the specificity work. Something has to give. You can't do all the work in the winter and then all the work during the year as well and stay healthy, stay married, stay employed, all of those things. So how do you achieve those goals? Well, we, again, start using that out-season protocol for intensity. And since it's far enough away from your race, even those of you who are sort of kind of on the fence and are saying, I don't know if it's going to work for me, give us 3 months. Give us a chance to do it. We'll do it. Right. Your first month inside an organization, it's money back guarantees. You don't have to worry about that. But we'll get you dialed in and make sure you are successful. And then you can go on to the rest of your year. It's 3 months to change your mind about how your body works, how efficiency can help you be stronger, how time can be something that you can use strategically for better outcomes as an athlete, and how you can ultimately get more. Right. By being really smart early in the season about how you invest your time, it keeps you healthier, but it also allows you to sort of take advantage of time later. It's a lot easier to go to your family later and say, hey, can I get a weekend away? Which may be impossible now with the way that you just buried them for 50 weeks a year with lots of volume and they never see you at all. To say, you know what, you're around so much. Hey, you can have a weekend. Like, who cares? Like, sure, go away, do something. You can actually get to do more cool stuff if you're strategic about your schedule. And the last example I'll leave you with is one that really hits home for a lot of younger endurance athletes, particularly those of you who are having kids. They'll say, you know what, I had a great run. I was a great endurance athlete. I did these amazing things. Your wife says, hey, I qualified for Boston. That's great. Or maybe your husband says, hey, I did that Ironman and I'm super happy. Like, now we're going to have kids. Like, that's it. We're not going to be any better as athletes. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And having kids, I think, is a big light bulb changing moment for endurance athletes when they realize that, wait a minute, yes, I have something super important in my life right now. The most important thing that I probably ever had, that I just can't even conceive of something more important than this newborn that I have in my life, in our life as a family. And yet I can still be an athlete. I can still do some work. Can I do all the work? No, but I've got to be really focused because I really want to spend time with my newborn or with my family or whatever that may be. And it's amazing to me how athletes continue to grow on. And in fact, the majority of them actually get better and better as they move into their late 30s and early 40s, as they get better at managing sort of what it means to have a family and doing all the things that are really important, to keep your child alive as you learn all those different skills. But that people can excel over time, but they just have to change how they approach it. And that catalyst of that new child is sort of the game changer because it's non-negotiable. You can't say, well, I'll try it out, but if this thing doesn't work out for me, peace, I'm out. That's the kind of approach that we bring to all sorts of other things like diet, exercise, volume, intensity, equipment, training partners, training teams, coaches, all those things, right? When you have that forcing function of like having a new addition to your family, it's very, very different, right? You're kind of all in on that. That same approach works here with endurance, which is to say, it sounds like it's not possible. I haven't done it before. There's just no way. I only know one way, and there's no way it could possibly be different. And yet, for 20 years, we've had 500 athletes or more inside the team following the system, being successful, having fantastic races, being able to be awesome at home, awesome at work, awesome outside of sport, but also really enjoy that endurance persona. And that's what we're all about here inside Endurance Nation. So I'd encourage you to check us out again between now and January 15th. Come on over. You can apply to join the team. We're fast tracking all the applications. You can come in, you set up a call with me. We'll have a chance to talk. I can walk you through the process, see if you're a good fit. And if you are, we'll bring you on. We'll get started. And after January 15th, the prices do go up. We haven't had a price increase in 10 years. Hard to believe. Everything else in the world has gotten more expensive except for Endurance Nation. And for members who are on the team before January 15th, you're all set. Don't worry about it. You get to keep the rate you have right now. But for new members after January 15th, you will pay more. So do make a quick decision here. Think about it and say, is it worth it? Is it worth the checking things out? Is it worth connecting with Coach Patrick, finding out if this works for me, charting a plan, getting a season roadmap, getting an outline for my year, tuning into these weekly coach events, tuning into the weekend Discord rides, maybe going to a training camp, meeting people at a key race? All those pieces are there. We'd love to have you on the team. So think about it. Go read up on the outseason. Just Google Endurance Nation outseason, learn more. And when you're ready, go to endurancenation.us/apply, submit that application, and we'll see you inside on the team. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week. I'll talk to you soon. Be well.